For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ron Pinkerton. I'm the technology coach at Thunderbird High School. And helping me out today are Demetria Graham and Aaron Breyer. So hopefully we'll be able to work our way through any new things that have come up or any questions that you have. This is the refresher. So you guys stated in your little survey that you're pretty comfortable with it, but it wouldn't hurt to give you a little more information. And so that's what we're here to kind of go through. So I'm going to run through this little presentation that I'm sharing with you. Can everybody see the title screen here? Thumbs up if you can. Good. All right. And while I'm doing that, like I said, you can feel free to unmute your mic if you have a question, or type it in the chat box, and we'll try to get through those with you. What we're going to go over is some of the more complex things, some problems that we've had, some troubleshooting issues, so that you can help other teachers as those come up, and a couple little tips and tricks and more I don't know, advanced uses for WebEx. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the a couple of documents. Actually, you know what? Before we even get started with that, I am going to share this presentation with everyone, so you have access to that. And within it, there are some links to other documents there, things that you probably have had access to before, but now you've got a quick link for those. So we have the district WebEx directions here. Should be familiar with those, I'm sure. And then a quick link to, within that, the updated classroom security settings. So we've had, of course, we had some issues early on, people getting in that shouldn't have gotten into classes. And so these are the settings for those, whether it's for the personal room or for the calendar invite classroom. So those are available to you. And then we are moving on, and I keep putting the little boxes in the wrong place here. So we're going to start with some questions about issues that teachers are having with those personal rooms. First one, and I preloaded this with a couple. We have some call-in issues where if the room is locked at 0 minutes, then students aren't able to call in. They aren't able to get past that. We've noticed some issues. Has anybody had those issues or had those brought to their attention? Seeing some shaking heads, so that's a good thing. All right, so one quick fix, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, is within the meeting itself, you can lock and unlock the meeting. So if you needed to briefly unlock to allow somebody in and then lock it back down, you can do that pretty quickly, and we'll go through the settings there. We've also had some issues with Chromebooks. A lot of those have been resolved, and we've worked through kind of the fixes for those. We're going to go through a couple of those as well in the presentation. Are there any issues that I don't have listed here that people have been having? Almost like I'm back in my classroom. I guess that's a good thing that there aren't any others, but if something comes up or you think of something as we go, please feel free to ask. All right. So some of the things that we're going to discuss are getting going with those meetings, things that you should consider before you start with the meeting. And so the first thing that I do whenever I open up a meeting is I start by going to the file menu and clicking participant, and then working my way through the checklist. So this one's a key one, you know, muting on entry. If you've been in any meetings at all, and I can't imagine any of you haven't yet, you know that this can be a problem if everybody is unmuted and you're getting a lot of background noise. So this will make sure that whoever enters is muted when they come in, then they have to manually unmute. Now, during the meeting itself, we can go through the participant window as the host, and we can mute and unmute people as well if we need to, if they're not, on top of that. Oops, sorry, ahead there. We can also allow others to share. We can assign privileges there, and we're going to look at that in the next one. The expel you can use to remove somebody from the room, and in those cases where somebody doesn't belong, that's how you can send somebody out of the room. Now that assigning privileges option, that gives us a few more little features here that we can use. We can set those chat features. If I'm in a class and I don't want my students to be communicating with each other, I want to force them to pick up their phone and do that, then I can stop the chat window or for them, so they can only chat with the whole group, or with if that's what I want, the presenter, the host, or the everyone. And that just depends on how you want to set things up. So be aware, I like to point this out, that if you look in your chat window, if you haven't already opened up your chat window, the two, where it says two at the bottom, that allows you to choose who you're chatting with, but that doesn't automatically change when somebody chats with you. So if somebody types in a snarky comment like, can you believe Aaron Brayer's hair today? And then you respond to them and say, sorry, Aaron, I'm using you as an example here. And you say something not kind about Aaron, he's going to see that because you're chatting to everyone. So make sure that you're switching those two messages there, and the students will figure that out. Can't see your hair, that's right. So the students will figure that out sometimes too late, but just be aware of that with those privileges. If I'm going through any of this too quickly, let me know. These were things that were covered in the original training, but I do want to kind of refresh, because there's, I don't know, I was feeling a little overwhelmed that first week. Maybe you guys were too. All right, so we have the, again, with stuff that's just review, we have the button bar at the bottom. When I'm starting my meeting, before any students even enter, I am going to go through and I'm going to open up that participation or participants button. And the reason why I do that is that's going to show me right at the top when somebody is waiting in the lobby, and that's going to stay there. Otherwise, it's just going to pop up briefly and go away. And if I'm otherwise distracted with, I don't know, teaching a class, I may not see that. And then I could have somebody waiting for a long time in that lobby. So having that participants window opened up is helpful. It's also going to help if I need to quickly get somebody out of the room, because then I can just click on that person and I can move them to the lobby if I just need to get them out of the room, but I need to talk to them later, or I can expel them completely. And so just clicking, if you're the host, clicking on that person brings up a bunch of features. I'm using Aaron as an example here. I'm not going to kick you out, Aaron, but I'm looking at him and I can do quite a few things. I can change his role. I can make him the host, but I can also mute and unmute him. I can stop his video if I need to do that. And then, like I said, I can move to the lobby or expel him there. The rest of you have options when you have that participant window open. That's a quick way to chat with that person. So you can click on those as well if it's available to you. So I open up the participants and I also open up the chat window when I first start a meeting. And the reason I do that is chats will appear briefly on your screen as well, and then they fade away. And so if you're not looking for them, you might not see them. So having that chat window open keeps that available so that as you glance back later, you can see if any questions are being asked. I really do I want you to consider opening those up and just get in that habit. Unfortunately, you can't, and I was actually talking about this in a meeting this morning. You can't, as far as I know, set these as defaults to where they open up for you every time. You have to go through that process. So maybe I'm missing something. If I am, I'll send out more information on that later. But yeah, so we have another button here, and that is this, did I go one too many? No, okay. That's these three dots here. Those three dots open up some other options. You can lock and unlock the meeting, and really that's the key one that I wanted to point out. If you need to let somebody in and for some reason they're emailing you and they're texting you or whatever, they can't get into the meeting, you can unlock the meeting long enough for them to get in and lock it back down. So that's a quick access there. You can also invite and remind people directly from within the meeting. I don't need to read through all of those for you. I don't know what connecting it to a device does. I'd have to play with that a little bit more. Anybody give me some help on that one? Or not? Okay. Okay, I'm starting to get something here. Dimitri, do you want to unmute your mic? And oh, okay. So you can actually go to okay. So you send it to another device. I don't know how useful that is going to be for all of us. Although I might be putting people on the big screen a little bit more often now. All right. The next is the recorder button, and really we want to be doing this anytime we're working with students, and it helps to have it for those kids that can't make it to our classroom and any meetings, and especially if you're working one-on-one with a student, they've asked that you record those meetings. You have two options. You can record in the cloud or you can record on your computer. Recording in the cloud is, it takes a long time to process. The last time I uploaded a class, it took 24 hours for the video to process, so I wasn't able to post it until the next day. And from what I've seen online, that's standard, that it takes that long. Recording on your computer is faster, but when I tried to do that for this meeting today, I was told that my computer did not have enough room to record to it. So, and I've been recording quite a few videos and posting those to YouTube for my classes. So I may have just kind of overloaded stuff. I don't know. So just be aware of that. It may work for you. One may work better than the other. But recording to the cloud, it does get stored on WebEx's server, and then you can download from there as needed. Well, as far as we know right now, we don't know the limitations to that, like how many videos it stores, unless somebody has heard differently. But as of this morning, we're not sure of a limitation on that. But recording those videos, like I said, is helpful to share that information with people who can't be there. As far as the videos go, we also can share videos. So if I want to share in a lesson with my students, a YouTube video, or I want to share them some other video so that we can all watch it together as a class and discuss, we can do that in WebEx, but we do need to configure some settings. So this video in the presentation shows you how to do that. I'm not going to have you sit and watch the video right now because you'll need to go back and watch it again before you set it up, because if you're anything like me, you won't remember that until you go back and try to do it. But I also have listed kind of step-by-step instructions on this presentation to show you how to do that. So you're going to click the share just like you would with any other screen sharing, but then you need to set the formatting for video. And so you'll click that button and it will optimize it for motion and video. And then when you do that, you also need to make sure that your computer audio is checked as well. That was the big issue, is people were sharing videos and the kids couldn't hear anything. And apparently we had teachers holding up like their speakers next to their computers in an attempt to hack that. And hey, whatever works at the time when you're in a panic, but that this will work to share those videos with your classes if you need to. The sharing is pretty is pretty important, sharing your screen. It's what I'm doing now. But we need to be aware of some things when we're sharing our screen. Make sure before you share your screen that you've closed any tabs that might embarrass you. Like, my kids don't need to know that I run a Vanilla Ice fan site, right? That's the kind of thing that if you have tabs open, when that pops up, that's going to be shown. And there are all kinds of embarrassing videos you can find online on social media of people making mistakes with that sort of thing. I don't recommend looking for them. But make sure that you've got that cleared out before you start sharing those. I'm going to pause because I feel like I am doing all the talking and not providing opportunity to ask questions or clarifications or bring up anything that has been an issue at this point with anything I've talked about so far. Again, just like in my classroom.
Takes us a while, Ron, to unmute.
Okay.
Longer wait times, man.
Longer wait time. That's my problem.
So Ron, did you go over the poll feature at all where you can actually ask interactive questions?
I did not, but let's go back.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, because honestly, it's one that I haven't used yet, but that would be very helpful. So can you tell us about the polling? And that's going to be under the 3 dots in your little menu at the bottom, and you'll see it right up here. Can you explain a little bit how that works?
Sure. And I'll actually I'm not the host, so I can't actually demo it, but you can run. So if you click on the 3 dots and then click the polling, just ask us any question.
Okay. So, does it have to be can it be a short, oh, it can be a short answer. Look at this.
It can be, yeah, you can do short answer, you can do multiple choice.
Okay, so let's just do an easy one. How are you feeling about WebEx right now?
Perfect. As soon as you, yep. And then you want
to let short answer, new, and open poll, maybe. Do you guys have access to that now?
Not yet, but I think it's coming. It's not showing up.
Not showing up. Okay. Let's see. What did I do wrong? New.
Sorry, we should have demoed this and practiced.
Sorry.
My fault.
What am I seeing? Okay. Well, I am going to have to play with it, and then I will add more to this presentation to kind of go through the steps. How does that work?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And what happens is the participants in the meeting in the chat area then will select their answers or type in their answers depending on the type of question that you've asked. And then it will display the results to everyone in the chat anonymously, which is kind of nice. So you can do quick checks for understanding as you're going through lessons and things of that nature. So it's a really nice quick check-in and then you can move on in the lesson.
Has anyone used that feature yet? No? Okay. Yeah, so I will, I'll go through and test that out. I've got, 25 guinea pigs coming in tomorrow for that. So I'll test that out tomorrow and then see what I can add to it. Okay, so I do have Heather saying that she tried it and it didn't work. So I will do a little more research and we'll see what we can figure out with that. So okay, so Dimitri, you've tried it and it worked? Yes. Okay. So Heather, you and I may have the same settings at this point, so we need to fix that and figure that out. All right, so going back. Okay. Here we go. All right. So there is, so teachers have been putting together some, and specialists have been putting together some great stuff. We have some tutorials on how to make a lobby presentation. So you can run in this case, it's a PowerPoint presentation, but you can use a Google Slides presentation to do the same thing. So as students are coming in, rather than just sitting and staring at their teacher's face as they're trying to get things set up, they can get some information, perhaps have a discussion question coming up, rolling through, just something kind of break up that wait time at the beginning. Again, the video kind of goes through all of those steps and to set that up. So I don't know that you'll watch that now, but it's available to you as we're going through this later. So one thing that we wanted to bring up in this is how are teachers using WebEx? How are teachers using them in innovative ways? Has anyone seen anything from their teachers on their campus or used WebEx in a way beyond what I'm doing here, which is, sharing a presentation and talking at your faces? So is there anything different, new, better that you've seen? Okay. Trying to use that wait time. And,
Hi, Ron.
yes.
Just so with the polling, Sarah Levine used it in our full faculty, and she just asked like 3 really simple questions, and then we got to see the results. So it can work. So I've seen it work, and it was really fun. And like you said, it's just something new.
Mm-hmm. And, right now, I think a lot of people are just, practicing triage and just trying to do the best they can. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the more we can kind of take those baby steps in for those other features, there's a lot there with WebEx. And I think we were in better shape getting started than a lot of places because we were already in the process moving towards this when all of this happened. So, I think that's, we'll get there. There are a couple of things that have come up that we have realized that were problems and some solutions for those that tend to be reoccurring. We want to make people aware of. And the first is with the Chromebooks. And like I said, we would talk about this a little more later. Sometimes with the Chromebooks, people won't, if they're running a Chromebook, they won't see their personal room. They won't see that availability. Switching back and forth from the classic view is one way to get that to reappear. It has worked for some people who have had that issue. Is that correct, Demetria? Yes. Okay. And then this one may look familiar to many of you who tried to attend a meeting. I think it was last week. I think it was it Friday that the GUEA had their meeting? That was the first time that I saw this. And I saw it for one other meeting at roughly the same time. And I haven't seen it anywhere since. So I'm also kind of wondering if that was just an error at the moment.
Just to interject a little bit, Ron, I think that the GUEA meeting was a number of attendees problem.
Okay.
WebEx meetings have a maximum attendee of 200. And there were well over 200 people who were trying to get in.
Okay.
WebEx trainings have a attendee limit of 500. So if it had been scheduled as a training, it would have been okay.
Okay. So that totally makes sense. So, and we have information on WebEx trainings.
So, I mean, you said it well, we're sort of in triage, and quite frankly, we have not had time to play with the different options, but now we're getting a little less slammed, so we can start looking into the training feature. But we can go into where it is so you guys can play too, and then we can all sort of collectively gather more information.
Fortunately, I don't know that the occurrence of 200 plus people meetings is going to happen that often. So, like you said, we have a little time to work that out. But that was an error that if you see that coming up, I guess we can assume it's for those bigger meetings. All right.
Last screen real quick, Ron. Sometimes people haven't linked their Outlook calendar under WebEx preferences. They've never actually signed in because they're just using their personal room link for the students, which is fine. They can do that. It just means that there's going to be challenges with how they try to join the meeting if they don't link that. Not create the meetings, but join the meetings. So they need to follow those steps in that WebEx for Teachers document in the very beginning to link their Outlook client calendar or their Outlook webmail calendar. And that will help take care of most of those issues and that error.
And I think does that also play into some of the issues that we are having with some students getting to meetings or getting invites for meetings because our students don't use Outlook? Or am I mixing things up here?
That I'm not 100% sure of. Students were having challenges with the green join button not showing up green and allowing them to select it on specifically Chromebooks because they did not have an audio device selected. Then once they select that audio device, then the button populates green and they can actually join the meeting. That was pretty prevalent the first week.
Was that setting once they've chosen the audio device the first time, they never had to go back and do it again? Which is why I haven't seen that issue since. All right, great. Any other thoughts on this or any of the other errors that we've been seeing? I don't know that there are that many other errors that we've been seeing. Anyone else? I feel like I should at least have some music in the background. All right, a couple of helpful hints that we wanted to add in on this. When you're scheduling the meeting through Outlook, you'll want to look at the template that you're using to set up the meeting. There's one labeled student session. Is set up to be locked down for a teacher scheduling with students. I'm just reading this to you, but if you want to, you'll want to use the default one for scheduling with coworkers, and that gives you a little more security there. We're less concerned, I think, of people jumping into. Well, we're definitely more concerned about people getting into those student meetings, but also who's sharing and that sort of thing. So we want to be able to open that up for our colleagues, but lock it down a little more with our students. And then
if I show everybody where that is real quick.
Yes, please. Can you, do you need me to give you?
I don't think so. I think I can steal it.
I think you probably can. So I'm going to stop sharing here and let you take over.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So when you're scheduling a meeting and forgive me, but I do not use Outlook client. So if you're a client user, you'll have to kind of play around a little bit under WebEx preferences to figure this out. But you just go here under Cisco WebEx meeting scheduler, WebEx preferences, and then the default meeting type, you can change that here. And then under the meeting template, I've created one that I use for myself for department meetings, student session, and then WebEx meetings default. And then a personal conference is just default in there too. And once you choose one of those and hit save, then each meeting that you schedule this way will show up that way.
So the downside is you have to share a new link for each meeting, yes, as opposed to using the personal room.
Well, if you set up a recurring instance, it's the same thing, and then the kids just join off of the calendar.
Oh, okay.
But it is a little different than what you guys have been doing most of the time with the personal room links. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop sharing so you can have it back.
All right. Yeah, and so we had a little more information on WebEx Train here, but I think we covered that all before. And that was really the gist of this. So we want to, again, leave it open for any questions or issues that have come up so far with this. So please feel free to unmute your mic and ask away.
Dimitri or Ron, can one of you talk about the process? A lot of users who are using Chromebooks are having issues with having the same access to tools as those that are not on Chromebooks or that are using the desktop app. And I remember in a meeting, Demetria mentioning that there is a possibility that based on the type of Chromebook a person has, they could download an app or a program that would allow those Chromebook users to have similar accessibility to the features in WebEx.
Lost my mute button for a second there. Yes, our testing has revealed that it's not a significant difference. And really, if people are using the web browser, rather than trying to go in through the app or a different way, we've found that you have access to most of the things. So I guess helpful to us would be exactly what people are finding that they're missing.
I think in the Google Chrome, the thing that I'm finding is when you're using the desktop app, you have that top menu bar where it says like file and then a couple of other things, and then it says participant. And then in that participant tab, you can toggle on and off the enter and exit tones. You can turn off screen sharing for others that are in the session. You can set participation for or their access to like chat and screen sharing and annotating and those things. And I haven't been able to find where those are when you're using the browser tab as opposed to the desktop app.
Perfect, fair. So, and this is in your personal room, is that fair to assume?
In a personal room or even in a meeting that's scheduled through Outlook.
Okay. So in your meetings, well, really, it's both places, I think. And Trent, you may be better equipped, or somebody from your team, to answer this question, but so this is accessible through the web browser, and if you go in, you can actually change the settings and preferences on your personal room here to change those meeting settings. And then if you schedule a meeting, you can also schedule here and then modify any of those settings, or set up a template that would then allow you to schedule in Outlook with all of those settings pre-populated for you. If that makes sense, Heather. And please, anybody else from IT, if you've got a better answer, chime in.
So what I'm hearing is teachers using Chromebooks should set those preferences at the guhsdaz.webex in their personal room settings when they're scheduling meetings through that guhsd.webex webpage, or create a template and schedule through Outlook. Okay, thank you.
And your statement about the file menus is accurate. You can't see those options. Those aren't available in the web application. When you're using the Android application on a Chromebook, it works marginally well as long as you understand its limitations. You start getting a lot of video on it, it won't work well for you. And also when you start doing screen sharing on a Lenovo, it's really, really poor. So that's what we've run into trying to use the Android app. And that's why we've been less enthusiastic about trying to push it.
Thank you.
I lost my mute button for a second. Are there any other questions, thoughts, suggestions that anyone would like to share? If anything comes to mind, then feel free to chime in, but I think we're running right about to the end of the scheduled time anyway. So I do appreciate you all being here, and please let us know, any of your tech coaches, if you come up with anything or see any issues arise, and we'll kind of work through this together as we're working with our teachers. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate it, and hope you have a great day.